Nellie Moss was born on November 1st in the quaint settlement of Clearfield, Crooked Island. She now resides in one of the inner city communities, Kemp Road. As she celebrates her 104th birthday this year, her wishes to meet the nation's leader.
Prime Minister I'm full of brave Davis.
Lord have mercy. Oh, praise the Lord. Yeah. I do hope this ain't be the last time.
Escorted into cabinet by her family and the office of the Prime Minister's staff, she was filled with joy and excitement as she was congratulated and presented flowers on reaching her milestone by Prime Minister Philip Davis.
And she knows that she's living for the Lord. Yes. And whenever she dies, she's going to be dying for the Lord.
Amen.
Also joining in on the celebration to salute this centenarian was female ministers in cabinet, one of them being Minister Glenys Hannah Martin, whose father, A.D. Hannah, she vividly remembered. Also in celebration of Moss's milestone was Housing and Transport Minister JoBeth Colby Davis. They all saluted her from one woman to another.
You remember A.D. Hannah?
Who?
A.D. Hannah.
Yes. Yeah, Lady Hannah.
And you remember Barrow?
He was a friendly man.
Moss also encouraged Prime Minister Davis in his work as leader of the country and offered prayers for him.
Don't put it in the hands of the Lord.
That's what I do.
The Lord can handle it.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I can pray for you.
Yes, sir.
For God can bless you.
Amen.
And guide you and keep you from all evil.
Amen.
In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
To say that is something that I've really taken more interest in with reference to the Bahamas, because green energy, green finance, climate action, that is something that's pretty much been a platform for me for the last 3 years, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to broaden. So being able to go to COP this year has been a dream of mine for the last 3, I'd say in particular, and it's allowing me to move forward with a platform that I've already been able to start, and hopefully be able to collaborate with a lot of the youth that I was able to meet over the last 2 years and see just how much progress we as a demographic can actually make.
My hope for COP27 is that I will learn a lot more than what I know now, even though I do think I know quite a bit. It would be nice to know more and figure out other people's perspectives and understand their points of views so that we can work together as an international body to fight this crisis that we're facing. Because as stated before, the Bahamas is facing horrible, horrible consequences when it comes to climate change.
Being able to be to COP, I would be able to find ways and solutions and learn more about what other countries are doing to fight the climate crisis and how some of that can be integrated inside of our communities. Right now we have been building momentum, and I would like to, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that. And what I would want to leave, and with all of the youths listening, is that climate change is not separate from anything else. So whatever you have to do, whatever skills you have, you can come in the climate fight. So I would leave an invitation for the youth of the Bahamas and the youth globally that climate change is a fight, and we need to have this fight now.
Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now. It's not just lights on, but lights bright, as the long-standing issue of proper lighting across the streets of the country will get a brighter bulb.
What is happening today is the beginning of a LED lighting retrofit for the entire Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Despite some hiccups along the way, Minister of National Security Wayne Munro explains that residents can now begin to feel safe and secure in their communities and their commute.
We receive a lot of complaints as members of Parliament about dark areas with the street lights being out. Well, relief is on the way. It's a national security issue if you don't have properly lit areas. It's very obvious that the criminal elements would like the place to be dark.
As the work has already commenced, Bahamas Power and Light CEO Siobhan Cambridge tells us the process in which they plan to execute the initiative nationwide.
So in terms of the logistics, we're going to be replacing about 30,000 lamp heads in New Providence. The island has been divided into 4 quadrants, and we have teams working all of the areas simultaneously. We anticipate the full completion of it to be about 1 year. And as Minister Sayers indicated, not only is it for security purposes, but this is also going to tremendously reduce the burden on our system in terms of the load.
One of the government's key priorities is climate action. Thus, Sayers explained that this initiative is centered around just that.
We're starting in New Providence. The LED lights will replace the less efficient lights, and many of which are not functioning. So we will have the LED lights more efficient and also a lower carbon footprint. The disposal of the old lights will be handled by a contractor so that they are disposed of in an environmentally friendly manner.
Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
Good morning, media colleagues and guests in the gallery. Good morning, those joining us via the stream. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing. We have an exciting briefing plan for you today, answering some of the more important questions that you have, and thank you so much for complying, for sending those in. Right now, I'm going to invite Press Secretary Clint Watson to come and introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you, Julian, and good morning to all of you joining us here and those of you joining us on the various social platforms and television. Good to be here another week to update you on the Davis administration, the work that we're doing. We want to begin, first of all, by giving you an update, and the people have been asking about the latest with the meeting yesterday held with the Pharmacy Operators and Owners Association and government officials. And so the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Senator Ryan Pinder, is going to come and update us on what took place yesterday, so you have that update. And then following that, we're going to be talking to the State Minister here in the Office of the Prime Minister responsible for Disaster Reconstruction Authority, Miles Rhoda, who's going to talk to us about a new bill that will seek to do some things for those ministries and departments and agencies attached to his portfolio, bringing it all under one umbrella. So he'll talk to you about that. And then, of course, we're going to be congratulating our male soccer team for the success that they had recently, and we'll do that and take your questions ahead of us going to COP, and we'll take whatever questions you may have that you would have submitted to us. So a lot to get started with. So first of all, Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder to give us an update.
Thank you, Clint, and good morning. Just want to give you a brief update based upon the meetings we had yesterday with the Pharmacies Association. One, we recognize that swiftly on Tuesday they started reopening their doors. I want to be clear, the government is not a government that is extorted. So we were happy to have a conversation with them yesterday afternoon after they were all back open serving the Bahamian people in an area where we believe it's in the national interest. Having said that, we had an opportunity to have a meeting yesterday afternoon. Myself, the Minister of Health, Michael Darville, and the Minister of Economic Affairs, who has portfolio responsibility for price control, Michael Halkitis, with the Pharmacies Association. It was a very constructive meeting. We have come to a resolution on the issue, which will be addressed later today by the Minister of Health and Minister of Economic Affairs. Needless to say, the items designated in the regulations for price control remain. In fact, as you will hear later today, they have been expanded. We have good cooperation with the pharmacists, and we look to having the regulations revised accordingly with a mindset for full implementation of the regulations on price control on pharmaceutical drugs, with full implementation expected by Monday. We believe that we are providing the maximum benefit to Bahamian consumers when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and we look for a good working relationship with the Pharmaceutical Association on a going forward basis. In fact, it was very constructive listening to, outside the scope of price controls, their opinions and observations with respect to their clientele, which are the patients of our medical facilities, and some of the cooperative and collaborative efforts that we look as government and the pharmacies to do going forward. For example, they believe that there is a significant need for public service announcements and public education on drugs, pharmaceuticals, on what is used to benefit them, what you should not commingle, these types of things, and we have agreed to have a partnership on a public service announcement basis and public education basis, working with the association and government. So it's a rather collaborative and cooperative approach. Needless to say, we look forward to an announcement later today on a final position with respect to price control on drugs. Having said that, we recognize that all of the categories listed in the regulations will be enforced. And again, like I said, in fact, those categories will be expanded on mutual agreement and cooperation. So I just want to provide you and the Bahamian people that update. Things are progressing well, and we're working certainly in cooperation with the private sector.
The Minister for Central Grand Bahama, no, East Grand Bahama yesterday said that, made the recommendation that Back be taken off of medication. Is this administration willing to consider that as well?
We have not changed our position with respect to our administration of value-added tax.
What do you say to the opposition saying it's unfair for the government with these price controls to have Bahamian entrepreneurs to solve that problem when it's the job of the officials to do that?
I don't really say much to the opposition, but I would say that this government's mindset is for the Bahamian populace at large. We do work in a cooperative relationship with all constituents, but we are here to govern for the people, and that is what we're doing.
Interpreter with Albanese, you said the list was expanded from 38. Can you expand on that as well?
You'll be getting that this afternoon when the Minister of Health and Minister of Economic Affairs and the Pharmacy Association together make the formal announcement. We're preparing the legal documentation now.
Yes, Eyewitness News. The association would have submitted their recommendations to the Economic Affairs Minister 10 days before they decided to close their doors. Any reason as to why there was a reactive approach to answering their cries, and what were some of the things that they outlined in that proposal asking of government?
That's not true. That's not true. They would have written the government on complaint 10 days before. They would have submitted their recommendations at the end of last week. So our belief is, one, their decision to close was misguided. It could have been a breach of the law, and was really not an action that should have been done, taken in consideration. Their submission was late, and we were in the process at that time of reviewing it. Needless to say, that's water under the bridge, and we have a very cooperative approach. And again, all of the items plus more in the categories of which will be price controlled for pharmacies will be finalized on mutual agreement.
Can you give an idea what is the penalties for any pharmacies that don't adhere to these price controls?
I don't have it offhand, but I think it's somewhere in the realm of $5,000 an instance, but it is a monetary penalty. But look, the fact of the matter is, we're not out there looking to penalize anybody, and they're not looking to be non-compliant with the law. And so they will be in compliance with the law. They've agreed to be in compliance with the law on an agreed position, and that is what's going to happen. The pharmacies are very, very, and they expressed this yesterday, they're very conducive and accepting of price control. They're very accommodating of the price control inspectors when they come to their pharmacies. This is not a bone of contention of enforcement of price control. They recognize what price control is, and they recognize what their obligations are, and they're more than happy to comply. That's part of doing business as a pharmacist. That's not the issue. The issue isn't enforcement and that we haven't been enforcing and they're scared that we're going to enforce, because we have been enforcing and they recognize that. So I don't think that is the operative issue in this discussion. No more questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to give you a brief update on this, and we look forward to a joint position later this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. We're going to call now the Minister of State in the Office of Prime Minister, the Honorable Miles LaRota, who's going to talk about a document that was laid in Parliament this week, what it will seek to do, and how it will allow services pertaining to his portfolio to merge together and to work together. So without further ado, Minister LaRota.
Good morning. Yesterday I laid in Parliament the Disaster Risk Management Bill 2022, and that is really to merge the entities that deal with risk management in the country. You know, there were acts that are presently in existence. You have the Disaster Reconstruction Act that was enacted in 2019, and before that you had an act in 2008. What has happened is that the world is moving away from the old proverbial fire chief being in charge of disaster risk management. This is now cutting edge technology, which requires us to not only focus on hazard after it has occurred. NEMA was an agency that was instituted that was pulled together, headed by Captain Russell, in the event of an impending storm. What the world has gone towards now is identifying those possible risks and prevent those that could be prevented, but also you're dealing with mitigation and you're also dealing with quick recovery after the event. And so now we are, the Prime Minister has as we put in our governance for change, that we are going to take the role of risk management in the country very seriously. We signed a MOU between the University of the Bahamas and University of Hawaii, whose partner, the PDC, who is probably the institution, the top institution in the world as it relates to risk management and risk analysis. In the past, we just had this wide swath. The Bahamas would be will suffer 3 or 5 hurricanes per year. What we are now dealing with is there has been an analysis of resilience with regards to every Bahamian inhabited island. And so they are all rated based on their ability to adapt. So you're talking about the age of the population, you're talking about the income of the population, you're talking about flooding zones. And so we are moving towards having an aggressive 12-month-a-year agency. What we also noticed in the past was that you had NEMA, you had DRA, so you had overlapping institutions. You had people basically doing the same things and agencies not really talking to each other, and that's not on the personal level, it's just there were too many silos. The new agency will be an agency that will be much more agile, that will be much more adaptive. Another important reason why we are going in this direction is that there is a lot of funding out there for small island developing states like the Bahamas to access. And in order to access those funds, you have to have a legislative regime in place. And so another reason we are doing this is to be able to source funding from other NGOs or other countries. And to be able to take monies from these institutions, you have to have an institutional and a legislative regime that is in compliance with the other countries of the world in how they tackle disaster, risk management, resilience, recovery. With that, any questions?
Once the legislative regime is in place, we know that institutions like the IDB give loans for certain things to be done in country. From your standpoint, once all this is in place, where will those funds be directed to? What sort of projects can we see being rolled out once that funding is secured?
Okay, one area that we're looking at, if you would have listened in the past, we have some islands of the Bahamas that have inadequate hurricane shelters. There was at least one island that was identified that did not have a shelter that meets the standards. So we have had, this year we got a UNDP, I think the Indian government donated $1 million towards the construction of the center in Abaco. What we're looking at, and part of the reason we are doing this now, is that to qualify for the IDB loan, we have to have the regime in place before the end of the year. And so there's a time constraint. But apart from the construction or assistance in the construction of facilities, you're also talking about equipment. I think we had a summit a few weeks ago of which representatives from the PDC actually showed images of what this country would look like if sea surge rise continue by 2050. And for those of you who from the island of Andros, it's not a pretty sight. And so apart from structures, there's also going to be training. We are working towards having Bahamians who have an interest in in meteorology or in disaster risk management and prevention, that we are building a career path for these individuals. In the past, you had NEMA, who draw people together, but these were technical ex officios from different departments. What we are looking for now is to have a pathway for individuals who want to study in this field, who may be able to access scholarships, to return home to better prepare us as we build on this program.
Are you satisfied that enough consultation has taken place in regards to this bill? Have multiple government agencies been able to see it, review it, add their feedback on it? Has enough consultation happened?
Absolutely. We sent out the consultation started about 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago, and we have had feedback. As a matter of fact, the bill that was laid, we have anticipate that those concerned that may not have come in, and even those under consideration, when we get to the committee stage of the bill, that we will do our best to accommodate all of those entities who had those concerns.
Okay, and it was residents in Grand Palm and Abaco have also voiced concerns over the ending of the SIRS order, which is expected to end on December 1st. Is there any consideration to continue that program?
Absolutely. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. It never ended. It's just that rather than having a blanket, individuals could make their case, and wherever we feel the need is there, we have no problem in approving them.
Are there specific qualifications on how the cases are reviewed?
Well, as it relates to the disaster zone as it stands now is East Grand Bahama and Abaco. And so those individuals who would have sustained damage had to be replaced as long as they could prove their position was a direct result of Dorian. Then we have no problem with that. The Disaster Reconstruction Authority was not a ad infinitum authority. It had a shelf life of about 4 years. And so that as the zone expands, and this legislation that we put in place will deal with that more actively. Right now, we're just dealing with Abaco and East End Grand Bahama. That's it?
Thank you, Minister LaRota, for that update. Just a quick announcement to pass on to you from Prime Minister. As you know, Prime Minister and his delegation will leave for COP27 tomorrow evening. On Tuesday, November 8th, Prime Minister Davis will give his speech to the Conference of Parties in the afternoon. Prime Minister Davis will focus on the continued push in the Bahamas to fight climate change and update the public on strides made since traveling to COP last year. He'll also stress how, instead of talk, we've been taking action on a number of fronts. Mr. Davis will also make a major announcement as well on the future of climate change and construction in the Bahamas. So that's something we want to stay tuned for. We will provide dates and times and, of course, stream that live so the entire country can be able to watch and tune in as Prime Minister addresses the world from COP27. And of course, you would have heard the delegation. I know there's been some concerns or talks or misunderstandings surrounding that delegation when it was announced that it was 70 people. I want to make sure we understand and clarify that for you. There's 70 people representing the Bahamas at COP27, not 70 people from government going to COP27. All right. The matter of fact, the private sector makes up a larger portion of the delegation going to COP, with some 37 persons from the private sector who will be going from various youth organizations, various NGOs, environmental groups, and individual persons as well. They make up a larger portion of that. Prime Minister will travel with a delegation of 10 with himself on Friday. The only other minister traveling to COP27 will be Minister Clay Sweeting, who's going to play a very heavy role in a considerable effort on agriculture and food security, COP27. The following week, when the Prime Minister returns, the Attorney General will be leading the delegation, who was already there. The Attorney General will be leading the negotiations on behalf of the Bahamas. and he will be the only second cabinet minister who will be attending COP along with Prime Minister. There are technical persons from various government agencies and ministries over the 3-week period that will be going various seminars and workshops based on what their expertise are, and those are all civil servants, not politicians, who will be going Department of Meteorology, Ministry of Health, Environment, Education, Agriculture, Foreign Affairs, all technical officers over the period that will be traveling. But again, Prime Minister's delegation will include 10 people when he leaves here on Friday. So it's important, so we put it in context, that it's not 70 persons from the government traveling to COP27. And we indeed say thank you to the private sector for understanding the vision and the importance. The reason why you're probably going to see every year more and more Bahamians go to COP27 is because people are understanding the relevance of it and the importance of it and how vulnerable we are as a nation to it. And as the private sector understands and see how it impacts what they do, more and more of them are going. More and more companies are sending representatives to make sure that they're at the table, they're at the place where negotiations are taking place to ensure that their future is safeguarded and protected and their voices are heard. So we encourage people from the private sector to get on board in this fight against climate change so that you are aware of how it's impacting you and your careers and your fields and what you need to do as more and more people are doing with regard to that. Okay, I want to take some questions from some of you before we say congratulations to some outstanding Bahamians this week who are making a difference. Let's begin with our news, Megan Sharpett. Hi, Megan.
You said that the technical team from the Ministry of Environment will be going. Can you confirm if the minister himself will be going, and if not, why not?
Right, good question. The technical team is going. Matter of fact, most of them are already there. The Prime Minister will lead the political arm of the team. And as you know, ministers normally deal with their political portfolios. So Prime Minister will do that. The other technical teams are there to do just that, negotiations and deal with it. And that's why they're going in place, to deal with all of the negotiations, all the technical aspects that require the technical teams to go. That's why they're going.
And the minister will not be going?
He is presently at another climate conference that's in Canada. That's where he is, and he'll be there as well into next week. Thank you, Megan. Eyewitness News, Theo Seeley. Hi, Theo.
Morning, Clint. How are you?
Good.
Good. So the minister won't be going. The state minister, where is he? Why won't he be attending? I mean, when we look at a 1,000-page document from those who attended COP26, basically every participating country carried their environment minister or the junior environment minister. Any reasoning as to why a year later we knew COP27 was coming up? Just in my scope, I can't imagine that there's a more global event that's bigger than COP27. Why is the minister not there? Why is he double scheduled? And why is the state minister not going in his stead?
No, the minister will probably answer that question for you. I can answer the question of the technical support. COP27 is changing. Last year when we went, this was as an administration the first time going there. We needed our political leaders there to understand what was going on. Since then, there are a lot of technical things that have to be in place and that must be negotiated. So this year's COP27 takes along a more technical line. And that's why we have such a strong presence of technical officers who are there, because they're the ones who have been working on the documents. They're the ones who have been at the various meetings throughout the year, negotiating, understanding what's required to be in place, in order to ensure that we have that kind of presence there, to make sure that we sign on to these agreements, that we're there around the table. Our technical officers need to be there. That's the priority. And because it's a working technical session, we get more out of having our technical officers on the ground to actually get the negotiations done and the work done. And that's why there's a heavy focus on our technical officers.
Wouldn't the states, I would just assume that the heads of these ministerial portfolios would have relevant training, relevant knowledge as to what should be done. So in the stead of the minister, why is the state minister absent?
I can answer that, Theo. I won't go into whether you're supposed to have training on technical areas. I can just tell you who's going to be there representing the Bahamas, why they're going to represent the Bahamas, and what we hope to achieve while there.
No problem.
All right? Sure, please.
There was a protest yesterday by members of the Social Services Department, I believe. They would have mentioned some grievances that they have with government, whether it be back pay or promotions, that sort of thing. What is government's response to what they had to say yesterday, because they've threatened to pull their services?
Right. We're trying to get the full understanding of what their concerns are. The Minister of Social Services, Honorable Wojcik, I'm sure will speak to it. people are hoping he will talk to them at the House or after the House. So I don't want to preempt anything he will say. We're, as administration, are trying to understand exactly what it's all about as well, but we're going to allow him the opportunity first to respond to them, and then we'll provide whatever support he needs in that regard.
As far as concerns with the oil in Grand Bahama, I know that every time I've come to OPM, I've asked about it. I've asked the Prime Minister about it. I personally went to Grand Bahama, seen the oil on the ground for myself, left there covered in oil. Has the administration actually been on the ground to see the property themselves? And are you really satisfied that the area has been remediated since the Equinor spill? Because I mean, the front facade of that property is clean, but I walked around that property for almost 2 hours and left covered in oil. So how is it that government is satisfied that the area is clean, but oil still remains?
I spoke to the Minister of the Environment, the Honorable Vaughn Miller, about this because he was in Grand Bahama recently, and I think he did hold a press conference to talk about that. So I spoke to him regarding that just recently, and this is what he says. I'll quote him so that you understand exactly how he feels about it. The administration, he says, has been back on the ground to assess the area following the story that you did. Samples were collected by our experts there. The samples were collected of the staining on the rocks, the vegetation, and soil that was there. The samples collected were sent to Florida for analysis to an accredited lab. There is oil staining on the rocks and vegetation. They have no toxic components, as it was analyzed, and natural attenuation is just dealing with it. But the report on those samples have come back that those are not oil from Equinor. So what is happening now is they're doing further analysis as to what it is and why it was there, but it is not related to Equinor.
I think that's very interesting. So if the oil on the property isn't from Equinor, and if the oil isn't toxic, I mean, I'm assuming you're trying to figure out where this tons of oil just manifested from if it's not Equinor?
They reiterate, and I'll reiterate what they've said. There is no oil on the ground. What was visited and seen are stained rocks, vegetation, and soil. And that happens because of natural attenuation. But they're saying that there is no oil on the ground. And there is no toxicity to it or concern for people there. Okay? Anything else? No. Okay. Let's go to, I think that was it. Those were submitted questions. Area of question, but you didn't submit. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just want to get the position on the government. There has been dissatisfaction with Mr. Munro said with the DPP and his not being satisfied. I think it has been called for him to resign. Do you feel that his comments that he made at Cabinet this week was appropriate, considering he's a government official speaking about another government official in that manner?
You think I'm going to answer that, Ariel? I have no comment on that, Ariel. Good try, though. Good try.
Any idea on the full cost of the computer trip?
No. Prime Minister, again, said that he will report whenever he gets additional update. He will report himself to the nation on that, and he's committed to doing that. All right? All right. Thank you, colleagues. I want to highlight, obviously, we've been having much success on various disciplines in the country, whether it be sports, pageantry, food, whatever area, careers, we've been having much success. And again, we're having success in the sports arena. The reason why I like highlighting this today is not our traditional sports that we've been highlighting, like track and field or basketball, but a new sport that the Bahamas, I believe, is about to really make its presence felt in, and that's in what we call, some call it football, but we know it as soccer here in the Bahamas. And recently there was a tournament held in the Bahamas, and our male soccer team won that tournament, and our female team placed third in that tournament. I think we ought to give them a round of applause. And so here at the Prime Minister's office, as you know, Prime Minister is a sports enthusiast, and you'd have no other way than to invite the male soccer team to be here so we can salute them via television and newspapers and radio, all of our mediums on their accomplishments. I'm going to ask the team to come and stand behind me and ask their coach, Leslie St. Fleur, to come and say a few words on their achievement. Oh, you got to come talk, sir. Come on up, team, as we salute them. Come, Mr. Fleur. Just tell us how you won. Tell us your strategy, and tell us a little bit about your team, so people may not be familiar with your team. This, I'm sure, isn't a beautiful trophy. Come on up, team. That's the coach. That's it right there. Hold it up. Oh, okay. Rest it right here so they can see it. I'll let you rest it right here so you can see it, and then you'll rest it down. Oh, you go. Okay, there you go. That's the trophy. Come, coach. Oh, you're the captain. Who's the coach? Who come in and talk? Come on, talk to us. Where's the coach? Oh, there you are, everybody. Come on up. Come talk to us. Come, captain, while the coach comes. Tell us about your team and about the work that you and your guys have been doing.
Speak now. Good day, everybody. We're glad to be here in front of everyone here in the house of the Prime Minister. This team, what we have here is like family, you know. We built together, we started from scratch, and we grew together, and we became family and played together for a very long time. And the tournament we held here in the Bahamas was a great accomplishment for us. You know, during the pandemic, the tournament was supposed to have happen, and it couldn't happen, so it finally happened, and then we just feed off it, and we went on there and did our best and came up victorious. So, like, I would like to say, without these fine gentlemen here, we would have never did it. So I want to say proudly thank you, and I'm proud of them.
Which teams you played against?
We played Costa Rica, Trinidad, and Colombia. So I want to say thank you, and thank Mr. Lund.
What's next for the team?
We don't know. The World Cup qualifiers.
We had one before that.
Oh, okay. That one I didn't hear. So we're traveling to Colombia in 2 weeks for CAC tournament to qualify for Olympics. We are well prepared for that, and we going out there to do our best again and come out victorious.
How does it feel to carry the country's flag on your shoulders when you compete internationally? I mean, you're doing a great job. During the pandemic, you know, things came to a standstill. How does it feel now to be back on the field and to be able to represent the country in the way that you do?
It feels good. Like I said earlier, we here as a family, so we feed off each other. So when we have training, if one player is not doing well, the whole team is not doing well. So we try to encourage the players, so we have the bond together and try to help that player. So it's very hard to do that. So we just come together, and like I said, we family, so we feed off each other.
Mayval, thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations to all of you. This is a fine example that the young men in our country are not all lost, and that we have people who are making great contributions. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Let's stay right there for a photo. Don't move, we're gonna get a photo. Don't move, we're gonna get a photo. Take a picture of this. Let me come out of the picture before they think I'm talking right now. Trophy now. All right, all right.
You want, go down. On this side? Okay. Switch your brand. Switch your brand. Come tighter. I feel like we come a little tighter. Come forward.
So you kind of go and put your head in between.
You just want to show people in front? That would have worked.
We're going to put on the we're still live.
No.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Congratulations to them and their fine work. And finally, this morning, we'd like to highlight our food businesses, Bahamian food businesses. And today we are highlighting 3K's Catering. I'm going to invite Vanessa Ramin to come and tell us about her delights that she's brought for us today. Vanessa Ramin of 3K's Catering.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vanessa Ramin. I own a business by the name of 3K's Eatery. We specialize in brunch, so we do brunch. So I would have started my business in 2019 during the pandemic. What inspired me to start my business, after my mother would have passed away in 2019, she used to cook. And she had a small little kitchen catering, which she used to do from home. So after she would have passed away, I just took on her dream, and I have mastered it. Today I brought with me some waffle chicken sandwich, fried cheesecake, pumpkin roll, strawberry lemonade, and that will be all. Thank you.
How can people reach you? Tell them how they can reach you.
You can reach me via Facebook, Instagram. The name is 3K's Eatery. Pop up on Instagram, and the name of my business on Facebook is 3K's Eatery. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for that. That concludes our press briefing for this week. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach us here at the Prime Minister's press office. We'll be happy to assist you with whatever information you need. Good afternoon to all of you.